Barakatuhu. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Here we are again to discuss the 33rd letter. The fourth phrase, his is the dominion. So I guess last week we were discussing the beginning parts of the mighty proof that Nursi mentioned on the previous page. And so we went over the section saying the macrocosm is similar to the microcosm, where we said the macro is the external, all of the external realities, the universe, and everything it contains, and the microcosm is the human being. And we were making a point that there's a similarity between the two, that we can understand ourselves through understanding the universe, and maybe that's more important than the latter, understanding the universe through understanding ourselves. And the continuation, what is fashioned by his power is a missive expressing his determining. So we're going to go, that was the first section. We're going to go on to the second section this week, unless there are any lingering comments or concerns. If not, I would like to ask for a reader. Any volunteers? Coerced volunteers?
We're starting with the second section, right?
Yeah, his creating.
His creating the macrocosm makes it a place of prostration, while his giving up existence to the microcosm makes it as prostrating. Wait, didn't we read this last week?
We read the sentence.
I don't know if we discussed it.
Okay. It has this meaning. The all-wise maker created the macrocosm in such a novel, wonderful form, inscribing under the signs of his grandeur, that he transformed it into a mighty mosque. And he created man in this way, giving him intellect and causing him to prostrate in wonderment with it at those miracles of his art and his wondrous power. He caused him to read the signs of his grandeur, thus grading him ready for worship in that mighty mosque. He created him as a prostrating slave. Is it at all possible that the true object of worship of those prostrating worshippers in this mighty mosque could be other than the one single maker?
Alrighty. Qadir, did you have a question last week? Would you remind us what that is?
So my question was pertaining to this line, his creating the macrocosm makes it as a place of prostration, while his giving of existence to the microcosm makes it as prostrating. So my question was like, how does someone giving something an existence make it as prostrating? That was my question.
Any takers? I think this reminds me of a verse in Surah Ar-Rahman where it says everything is in submission. Maybe the Arabic word is in sajda.
And here he uses sajda.
And so the verse says every creation is in submission or subject to his designs. And so that verse would imply that everything is in prostration, whereas Nursi is saying, only the human is in a prostration, whereas the exterior, the macrocosm, is a place of prostration. So would that be maybe an apparent contradiction, or how would we resolve those two points? Yeah, please.
Just like I'm not explaining anything. Maybe just paraphrase what is written here. The way I understand, it says, when you look at the microcosm, the macrocosm, the bigger one, you will see it as a place of prostration. And when you look at the microcosm, to yourself, you will see it as the one who is prostrating. And you are being created in this way. That's what I understand from while his giving of existence to the microcosm makes it as prostrating. That when you look at the microcosm, the small one, you will see that it is being created to prostrate.
Okay, I think that was helpful. I guess what's confusing to me, so I would understand this as, you know, anything I see around me is a reason to prostrate, right? I might see a beautiful mountain, a tree, fruits, flowers, and those, would evoke something within me to give, thanks or to appreciate the one who created these things. And so that would, lead me to prostration, right? Maybe the ultimate gratitude or subservience or respect or whatever. But I guess it's confusing to call it a place of prostration, because even if I see something beautiful like a mountain, I'm not necessarily prostrating on the mountain if, it inspires submission within me.
The word is masjid, so the place that you prostrate. Otherwise, it doesn't mean that you prostrate on it like literally. Like we call it masjid not because we prostrate on the floor. We call it masjid because you go there, the building, and you prostrate within it. And the same way, it says the universe is created in a way that you prostrate within. And also there are some other, the connotations behind it as well. So it kind of call you for prostration, indulge your prostration. It's a reason to prostrate and so on. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to prostrate on the mountain to call it as a masjid.
Sure, fair enough. That might resolve the part where we understand the macrocosm as a place of prostration. How might we understand his giving existence to the microcosm, making it as prostrating? What could that mean? Yusuf.
So there's a word here, prostrate in wonderment. Like in the original text, he uses it in a different form. The meaning is similar, but to give a context to this specific type of frustration, at the time of Prophet ﷺ, Quran was recited to someone, a person who knows about poetry. Once he heard the prostration, he went to sajda. They told him, "Did you become believer, Muslim?" He said, "No, I prostrated to the balagha of this verse." So this is prostration of wonderment. Mm-hmm. Like you see something and you say, "Oh, this is extraordinary." And I do respect, this is beyond me and I can never reach such a thing. So I put my forehead on the floor to demonstrate that it's beyond my capacity or even human capacity to reach such a thing. So to show respect to the maker, speaker of that speech in that example, you go to prostration. So the author, this is, in English, it's translated as prostration of wonderment. Let's call it this way.
And in Arabic, this is sajda as-sahu?
No, not sahu. This is hayrat.
Okay.
Sajda hayrat in the original, he said, but hayrat, I don't know if, do you have the word hayrat?
Yes.
In Arabic? Hayrat, yeah. Some say
Bewilderment.
Bewilderment, yeah. So in the original text, he uses sajda hayrat.
Uh-huh.
So out of your awe, bewilderment, you go to sajda, saying that, wow.
Is in modern...
Here in the original second section.
In the modern,
Okay, it is there. Yeah. So now the author is saying that the creation is such that the creation is made in a way that human is made to do sajda hayrat, or prostration of bewilderment, wonder, when they see it. And I think the sciences itself is a testament to that, for instance. Because when we observe something new, we are excited about it and we would like to explore more. And this is the point of author here. He is saying that human is made in a primordial nature that fits to put into prostration when they see all these artwork. So even like you being believer, unbeliever doesn't matter. When you see that wonders of art, wonders of creation, you fall down to prostration. No, and it does not need to be physically putting your forehead, but out of your awe, day and night you work in the laboratories, for example. Like if you're not interested in it, if you're not really in awe of it, you wouldn't get into making all those efforts. So looking at this picture, it's not only talking about believers, but that way of human being in awe of the art and prostrating. And what is the cause of this prostration? In my example, it was the verse. So seeing the beauty of the verse, the person using this as an occasion, saying that I put my forehead before this verse because it shows my inability, and this shows a skill which is way beyond me. So the same thing is what is our masjid in this case is the creation. So when we see it, let's say when we see some fruit, some sunrise, a newborn baby, so we say this is beyond me. So how beautiful it is. So it becomes our masjid because this is the occasion which puts us into awe. And now at the very end, the author is saying that all people who are making this prostration, who could be their true object of worship? Like I might be wrongfully putting my object of worship to something else. I might be thinking that, oh, it is DNA, oh, it's evolution and whatnot. The author is saying that, no, look at who is truly, knowingly, unknowingly, this person is prostrating someone. But in fact, who is the true object of worship for all these people who are prostrating? This is what you should be looking for. Because the existence is a masjid. You see that even the atheist professor is prostrating. I mean, with that lens, you can even look at, let's say, some Hindu temple. Somebody is making a prostration in there. Their true object of worship, they might be not knowing it. They might be thinking that, oh, I am prostrating to this spirit of something, and this is the statue which represents it and whatnot. But looking at this devotion of that person, you can say that although that person doesn't know, in fact, he's prostrating to the maker of the whole creation, whole universe. So I think this is what the author is extracting in here. The one who made this existence like a masjid, made all the people in there, created them in the form of a sajid so that they can appreciate and prostrate.
Birkan.
Since he mentioned, did you say Hinduism or Buddhism? Doesn't matter. Okay. Those religions, they don't officially have masjids, like temples, according to religious teaching, to the extent I know, which is very limited. They don't have temples by definition, but they do. Okay. You know what I mean by definition? It means like when we talk about masjid, for instance, in Islam, it has a quote unquote formal definition, right? It is there from the beginning. The Prophet encouraged it and so on. With Buddhism, for instance, there's no such thing. The people with their own inclination, they decided to build these temples. So they were looking for let's say, a point of reference to direct their, let's say, prostration, which shows something, innate to humanity about this, the idea of masjid. And interesting, in Islam, we see that, as described in Quran, the masjid is the entire earth, right? You can, literally speaking also, you can prostrate and make, let's say, salah everywhere, like as long as it's not, let's say, dirty. So the reason I'm mentioning this, it's like this tendency to prostrate and then tendency, inclination to looking for a place for that. It's very innate to humanity. And I think author, when he says, he's giving existence to the microcosm, makes it as prostrating. So he says, this is your nature. You look at the universe and you have this the inclination, disposition to prostrate. And this is how it is being created. The universe is being created, author says, so that it will show the signs of the creator. So he explains, always the maker created the macrocosm in such a novel, wonderful form, inscribing on it the signs of his grandeur, that he transformed it into a mighty mosque. Meaning, wherever you look in the universe, you will see nothing but the inscription of Allah. Like in mosque, we have these inscriptions, like on one side it says Allah, on the other side it says Muhammad, for instance, right? So you see the same thing in universe, author says. Everywhere you look, you see the signs, the inscription of the names of the God, the creator, all-wise maker. That's what he says. This is how it is being created. On the opposite, when you look at yourself, you realize that you are being created so that you will read these signs and then make sense of them and then prostrate. Prostrate here means, at least the way I understand, simply saying that this cannot happen by itself. It's like there must be always maker there. I recognize this, I respect this, and I submit myself to his mighty. That's what I understand from prostration. That's how you are being created. So why author is talking about that when we study Lahul Mulk? I think he's saying that so when we try to define ourselves, like I say, I'm a human being, I have this body for this, for that, I have my life for this purpose, I strive for being this or that, I will be the best singer, best doctor, best whatever, right? We have our goals, purposes, we define ourselves. And in our century, this is the main theme, right, of everything, redefining humanity. We will define it, what it means to be, a man, what it means to be a mother. We will define it, what it means to be a human being. Like in Turkish, we have a saying, it says, oh, look at these fingers, they are created for playing a piano. No. So it's like a part of a joke. So author says, like, look at yourself. Everything about you is created for reading the signs in the universe and prostrate. So when you try to define yourself, when you try to define your purpose, this is the only thing makes sense. You are created for prostrating him. So Lahul Mulk, even when it comes to your definition, what you are, when it comes to your purpose in life, what you are, why you are here, all answers looks at him, Lahul Mulk. So you are his mulk. So this is how you should define yourself.
All righty, Aishanur.
Assalamu alaikum. In addition to what Brother Virkan was saying, this reminded me of a hadith in which Aisha radiallahu anh tells us that in the morning before praying Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ would look out the window, right? Maybe it's the sun, the clouds, and then perform his prayer. And I think that illustrates to us or gives us an example of what it means to make sajda, right? That it becomes my conclusion, my acknowledgements to my creator after I witness something, after I witness creation, after I witness the world, witness myself, events, right? And then I'm able to go into prostration, and through that act of prostration, say, yes, you must be the creator of this. These are your qualities that are being represented here. And I guess, you know, even in our 5 daily prayers, we might look at the world and we might look at the events that transpire, right? So from Dhuhr to Asr, I might go through, I have this meeting, this interaction, this thing happened, that thing happened. And then when I go to prostration, it's an acknowledgement of these events or whatever I'm experiencing, these feelings that I'm going through, these thoughts that I'm enduring, all of them are also your property. All of them are also being created by you. So it's a sort of constant, the prayer, the daily prayers at least are in fact, how I understand them, opportunities to constantly acknowledge or ask the question of, how are these events transpiring? How are the things that I see? How is existence happening? Yeah.
Sure, thanks for sharing. To digress a little bit.
Something.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
What Aisha said reminded me the fact that we are not allowed to close our eyes when doing salah, right? So you cannot do salah in your imagination. You have to do it in this universe. Just an anecdote.
Yeah, I think the official position it's makruh, but again, you know, it's because it's easy to be distracted. And I guess so. What Aishanur was saying is that, you know, it's not just the physical things in the world. It could be, you know, events, experiences, and anything, anything, even the intangible, non-physical realities. And to digress a little bit, I believe in the Maliki school, you are allowed to look up in the sky and pray, and it does not take away from your prayer.
Comment had some people worried otherwise. And they're like, wait, I closed my eyes.
Oh,
So, Brother Kadir, you had a comment. Can you
Can you close your eyes? Because it's off topic, sorry, but I think it helps you focus.
I mean, you know, if it helps you focus, I can't really speak on it. Yeah, you got to talk to somebody else, man. We're here to talk about Nursi.
what I said is based on my, let's say, the primary school education.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's discouraged. So, if there are not further comments or questions on this section, we can move on. We are not ready to move on, but please, Birkan.
Is there a
We-
comment?
Not for now.
Oh, you have?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I just.
I think you were raising your hand. Like,
No,
okay, be careful with your body language. So, like, this is one thing I love most about really like reading Imam Nursi, when he defines or at least take our attention, drive our attention to the relationship between human and the rest of the universe. Like you can just read it and pass But when you think about it, it's so beautiful, so magical. Like when you think about the human being, that you have all these questions, that you have all these ties with the, the rest of the world, the universe. You are interested in things. Like you are interested in, let's say, music. You are interested in, I don't know, the astronomy. And you are interested in soil, everything, right? And you cannot explain those within a survival of fittest, let's say, the paradigm. Like how my interest in, let's say, the black holes, which is not even close to me, can be explained. Or how my interest in, let's say, the humanities in general, explained. They don't
for all of that. The art instinct, the culture instinct.
But it's instinct. It's like a kind of artifact, right? So you either just take them as granted, or say that, oh, these are just artifact of this brain. They don't have any, let's say, value, utility, but it just make our lives beautiful. You can take a human as this, or you can take it serious and say that, I mean, it's so interesting that I care about all these things. An author says, yes, it is interesting, and Quran is the only source that can explain this phenomenon. That you are tied to the entire universe, because everywhere you will see, everywhere you look, you will see the signs, the different signs, right? When you look at the stars, you will see something different. When you see under earth, you will see something different. When you look at the cloud or the plants, whatever, or Yusuf, you will see something completely different. Because you are reading the different names of your creator. And it makes sense, it makes perfect sense, because this is your purpose, to reading them, becoming more and more familiar with him. And this is the only way you know him, reading the universe. Now I look at myself and I say that my maker, the universe's maker, made his job in a perfect way. Such a perfect match. Nothing is wasted. Like there is nothing in the universe. I look and what is it? What is it called? Like my gaze. Like I take my gaze. My gaze. Yes. There is nothing in the universe. I mean, I personally may, but Atik will not. If he does, Yusuf will not. Everything is there for our reading. And this is the only explanation of probably the most important phenomenon of humanity, that our curiosity about the universe.
No, I did not have any.
Oh.
So I was thinking about like when you talked about like a curiosity about the world, and then I was like, I don't know if everybody, like, I don't think, I'm curious about some things more than others. So like in that sense, I couldn't really, I guess like I was listening to you and I was like, that sounds great, but I don't do half of the stuff you said at the same time, like evaluating it and then going back and returning to like who created this. Like I'm not always questioning that, and that might just be like my own default, but also like I guess in that idea I couldn't really relate to section, like this section, because I wasn't thinking like, oh, what is this? Oh, I have this curiosity, because then that means in each second of my life I'm actually like contemplating what's behind that action, and I'm not sure I do anywhere even near that. So like, is that, I don't know.
But you would agree, I think, you have in you, and any human you'd see, that you have this potential, that you have this capacity. That when you look at the humanity as a whole, for instance, you see the instances of this curiosity, right? So that's what I mean. So my car, for instance, or my phone, has many features. I use only 2 or 3 of them. It's not because my phone lacks them. It's because I don't use them. So I look at a human being, you for instance, and I see all these potentials that you, and don't undersell yourself. Like look at your relationship with your family, for instance. You care about other entities other than you, right? You love them. Such an interesting thing. Like it doesn't need to be just a curiosity. Your love relationship. Why do you love your mother? Your siblings, if you have one, or more than one. The other people, the animals, the plants. I don't think you see a beautiful flower and just throw it, or just, just grab it, eat it, or what, like you just watch it, right? You say, oh, it's beautiful. Just a second. So this relationship between you and the flower, it's such a magical thing when you think about it. That's what I mean.
Author in here is specifically talking about the awe or curiosity, bewilderment of human, which reminded me of, let's say, a cat. Like cats are not, I mean, cats are curious, but at the beginning of, Harry Potter, first part. So there was a cat on the street and weirdly looking at somewhere. I don't know if you remember that part of the novel. So that sort of a curiosity is human-like. And this is how in the book it was starting saying that there was a weird cat staring at somewhere where it shouldn't. So human is made to have this curiosity. And this is something that we take for granted, but as if the author in here is attracting our attention to this. Look at how wonder-worthy the existence is and how human is made to wonder about them. What does this tell you? So this is telling that the maker, the one who governs this wonderful environment, must be the one who makes this wandering creatures in there too. So this is something to be wondered about. So the very fact that we are made to wonder, as general humans are made to wonder and enjoy this existence, appreciate the existence. And the general theme about this part is Lahul Mulk, and Lahul Mulk is his is the dominion, as by saying that the owner of this wonderful masjid is the one who brings in those sajids, those worshippers, into here as well. So again, from top to bottom, his is the dominion. So I guess this is, in that, what is the benefit of knowing this? I should locate myself in this picture. Who makes me wondering? Do not take the fact that you can wonder for granted. It is given to you. You are created in this nature of wondering, but the maker of this masjid made you as such.
No more magic. No more magic. When we talk about such topics, how human beings in this way or in that way, and we do, as you, for instance, felt, I also felt this way as well. When somebody else, talk about such topics, that I say, but I don't do it, or I don't live in, this way, as if the expectation is, you will walk on the street, and every step you will either cry or get excited, contemplate about everything, and so on. This is more like a, I don't even want to use the word target, the goal, but this is what human is. Right? This is just a generic definition. It doesn't matter when he is doing it this way or another person doing it that way or not. The question is whether I agree or not, when I look at a human being in general, whether I see this capacity or not. I guess that's the point. So for a few days, last few days, I've been watching some interview, some speech of a person. He's a really, the respectful person that I respect. Anyway, doesn't matter. And when he speaks, when he speaks, I really experience this wisdom. Right? He's a really wise guy, a genius kind of, and I enjoy it a lot. Like, it's not like just respecting this person as a third person. Oh, he's so genius. I listen to him and I say that, so this, the wisdom is created in him, right? I respect this, that this is the human being. A human being can be such a genius, the person. That's a template. It doesn't matter whether Zerun is this way or not. This is what I see in humanity, and it makes me so excited because I'm a human as well, as if I have these, the part of genius as well, because it's coming from the same source that creates me. So I'm so happy to see such a person, because it tells me that my creator creates such things. And I'm also his artwork. Maybe I don't see this, the wisdom in me right now, but it doesn't matter. It's coming from the same source. And it suits me. I don't see it as, oh, this person is so genius and I'm jealous. It's like I see being genius there and I enjoy it. So I think it's the same way. Like when I read this author, I sincerely believe that he lived at least a certain part of his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to write all this. I sincerely believe that he lived the life in a way that he was not wasting his steps. And when I read it, I say, Alhamdulillah, this is possibility. This is what I am as a human being. Maybe not as a Birkan, fluent Birkan, but this is what I can become. And this becoming is what makes me excited. So I would suggest, again, like, don't take it so hard, especially when it comes to yourself, that I don't do it that way. So something must be either missing with me or he's just talking nonsense. No, he's just talking about the possibilities. In Quran, we see the same thing. In Quran, we don't see regular people. We see either mushrikun, kafirun, all believers. Nothing between. Because the Quran talks the same way. It's like about the templates. We either go this direction or that direction. But we always, in a moment, in between. We don't say I'm a perfect believer. I don't say I'm a kafir. But I know that sometimes I get closer to be becoming kafir, sometimes becoming a mu'min.
All righty. If there are no other comments, I would say that it's not just in, the feelings or experiences or emotions of curiosity or wonder that leads to, a prostration and wonderment, but maybe any and every emotion or experience or feeling that is created within us. For example, experiencing absolute generosity as well as experiencing absolute despair should it inevitably lead to a prostration and wonderment. And so I think that's something we should be aware of, right? It's not just the things that give us pleasure. It could also be the things that cause us disgust that lead back to him. So I'll end this section by repeating the last rhetorical question that Nursi directs. Is it at all possible that the true object of worship of those prostrating worshipers in this mighty mosque could be other than the one single maker? And with that, we'll need someone to read the third section. We're currently, for online participants, we're currently handing out the papers, so we'll ask for a moment. Our reader received the paper. He will start.
Okay, so the third section. His bringing form into being makes it as a property of his giving of existence to the latter makes it as owned. It has this one, the very state of all the meaning created the microcosm, respecting the face of the earth so that it resembles countless concentric circles or spheres. Every sphere is like an orbital fuse where minute by minute, season by season, century by century, he sows, roots, and harvests crops. He continuously administers his property and works it. He has made the world of minute particles, the largest sphere, into a field. This power and with his wisdom, he unceasingly sows crops in it to the extent of the universe and roots and harvests them. He dispatches them from the manifest world to the world of unseen, from the sphere of power to the sphere of knowledge. Next, he had the face of earth, which is a moving sphere, the place of cultivation in exactly the same way, where season by season he plants, grows, species, reaps, and harvests them. His immaterial crops too he sends to the immaterial worlds, to the world of unseen, the hereafter, and the world of similitudes. A garden too, which is a small sphere, he fills hundreds and thousands of times with power and empties with wisdom. And from even smaller sphere, from animate creatures, a tree or a human being, for example, he harvests crops that are 100 times greater than the being itself. That is to say, the glorious Lord of all dominion creates all things great and small, universal and particular, as models and clothes them in hundreds of ways in engravings of his art, which are embroidered with continuously renewed inscription. He displays the manifestation of his names, the miracles of his power. He has created everything in his property as a page. He writes meaningful letters in hundreds of ways on each page. He displays his wisdom, his signs, and he invites intelligent creatures to read them. In addition to bringing the macrocosm into being in the form of a cultivated property, he has created man and he has given him such tools and abilities, senses, feelings, and especially soul, such desires, needs, appetites, greed, and claims, that in the extensive property he is like a totally owned creature who is in need of all of it. It is therefore at all possible that anything apart from the glorious Lord of all dominion, who makes everything from the vast world of minute particles to a fly as a field and cultivated property, and makes insignificant man a spectator, inspector, churl, merchant, herald, worshipper, and slave in the vast property, and takes him as an honored guest, battered aggressive for himself. Could anything other than him have free disposal over the property and the Lord over the temporary owned slave?
All right, thank you for reading. Any initial comments or questions? If not, we will go paragraph by paragraph. So the third section is dealing with the section of the proof that says his bringing the former into being makes it as a property, while his giving of existence to the latter makes it as owned. So his bringing the former, that is the macrocosm, into being makes it as a property, while his giving existence of the latter makes it as, the latter being the microcosm, the human being, as owned. It has this meaning: the glorious Lord of all dominion created the macrocosm, and especially the face of the earth, so that it resembles countless concentric circles or spheres. Every sphere is like an arable field or harvestable, plantable field where minute by minute, season by season, century by century, he sows, reaps, and harvests crops. He continuously administers his property and works it. So he has one, the imagery here is of Allah being very, hands-on with everything that occurs on this earth. And do we witness that reality? Dua.
I guess I'm confused as to what this means. Like, because what I understood was that like his making the macrocosm or like bringing the former into being like makes it a property. So everything in the macrocosm is to be owned by someone. And then his making the microcosm makes it so that we are owners of that property. That's how I understood it, but I don't know if that's true. Because it's different, because like the sentence.
It doesn't say owner, it says owned.
So
That's why I'm confused.
Memluk.
Like,
Mulk, memluk. The first one is mulk, the property. And the other one is the memluk.
they are both owned. Like if someone owns a property and then also the human being is owned, maybe in a different way, maybe not as a property, but owned as a servant. Maybe, I don't know what the
because
is there any distinction in the Turkish?
Mulk also means, stage.
Because in the first, like it says, the microcosm makes it as prostrating. So the microcosm is prostrating. And then in the second one, it's like makes it as owned. So like, are we owned? But that like doesn't make sense to me. Like the macrocosm being the property and then we being is owned. Like what connection do we then have to the macrocosm? I think it made sense to me like the macrocosm is to be owned and then we are the owners. But that is also problematic because isn't Allah the owner? So I'm confused.
Zuri.
I guess I kind of took it as like the existence of us as human beings makes it like I took that phrase to mean that perhaps our capability of recognizing like the macrocosm as a property, that's like that recognition, like it's that recognition of being of the macrocosm being owned is what's like highlighted here, not necessarily, I guess, that we are the owners of the property. So it's like if I were to kind of think of an analogy, I guess if an artist makes this like very amazing painting, but there's like no one around to like see it or appreciate it. Like, yes, it still belongs to him, but like, I guess, I don't know, that feeling of ownership is like put into like the viewers of that artwork, like the feeling that, this artist created this. I think that sense of appreciation is what I kind of took from what that phrase means.
That's sort of like we're trespassers.
Trespassing if we were placed here.
Yeah.
Zarar.
I think Lucy sorts of answers the rest question. Later on the test where it says, how many creatures a tree or a human being? So like, I was imagining it as like, if you buy a piece of property and there's a tree there, you own the tree. So, like you're just there on the property and you're on it. So I'm sorry, that's just how I see it, Anyway.
So,
At the end where it says, the last paragraph, and I like creature, a tree, or a human being. So you're a tree on a property. So
so I guess the common understanding is that everything is under ownership of God in whatever way, or property or geography is owned as a property, a human being is owned as a abd, or servant. And, you know, the rest of the creation can be owned in whatever way it, it exists. Yeah, Sarah.
I don't think that. So first of all, I don't see a difference between the two sentences. So bringing something to being and bringing something or giving something existence. Is there a difference?
I wouldn't know.
So this is a good catch because in like I was going to mention this in original text, author is making a distinction, and it's an important distinction. إنشاؤه لذاك السيارة ذاك ملكا إيجاده لهذا السيارة مملوكا. So he is making a distinction about إنشاء and إيجاد. So like in the original Arabic, he initially mentioned إبداء when he was talking about. So these two terms are important. That's why I'm going to refer to them. So he was in the previous, for the previous part, he said إبداؤه لذاك صيره مسجدا إيجاده لهذا صيره ساجدا. So he said إبداء for the masjid, إيجاد for the sajid. And now when he talks about mulk and mamluk, which is what we are now talking about, he said إنشاؤه لذاك صير ذاك ملكا. So insha in here is like construction. The word insha is like construction. In the translation, they didn't translate it as construction, but this should be compared with ibda, which I'll get in a second. So he says he constructs this one, referring to the macrocosm, like a mulk, like a state, as if, and then turns back to the microcosm. إيجاده لهذا صيره مملوكا. So he creates this one, the microcosm, and makes it like a mamluk. Like in the state, there are also slaves, workers. Mamluk means this owned, but they are workers within the state. So the distinction that I want to emphasize here is both are creation, but one is mentioned as ibda, the other one is mentioned as insha. The emphasis is different. So both are creation, but in one, ibda is creation out of nothing, as if it was not origination. But insha looks like reusing something. Like there are bricks here, and then you put them together and make a building. So creation is both is happening at the same time in creation. For instance, this Ali, he is now 18 months. Ali is 18 months old. So for the 18 past months, I call him Ali. To me, he is the same Ali or changing Ali, but Ali-ness is there. But within this Ali-ness, every moment is a new Ali, though. Like there is an ibda that keeps happening. Every moment there's a new creation that's happening. But also, Ali-ness is there, changing over time slowly, maybe. So this is why in this part that we are now emphasizing, he's looking at the creation from insha point of view. He says, look at the particles, or look at a human, look at a tree, look at a garden. From one garden, you call it the same garden, but creator keeps reusing or showing you as one garden, but as if he turns it this way, in the spring shows you something else. In winter, he makes something else from the same thing. So again and again, using one creation in your eyes, but he makes 1,000 harvest from the same field. So in one field, in one season, we get one corpse. Let's say we put beans and we get out of beans from that field, but the authors, one crops. But creator is from, let's say, Ali. He is a farm, in a sense, a field, but every day it's a new update comes, a new update is installed to Ali. So many crops are being taken or harvested from here. So he's saying that look how
creator is using Ali as a mulk, as a state, and he takes multiple harvests from him throughout his life. And when it comes to Memluk, now he is turning to the microcosm. He says that in this state, in this governing, there are people who are ruled, and those ruled ones are, this is, I like that phrase very much to the very end. So the last paragraph, and makes insignificant man a spectator, inspector, tiller, merchant, herald, worshipper, and slave. Like human in this world is made such that in this farm, which is being governed by the creator, let's say the farm of Ali in there, or farm of Yusuf, because I'm a first-hand observer of this field, which is me, but every day I am going through multiple feelings. So from this single field, the creator makes multiple harvests, even within a day, and he gave me, for myself, for Ali, for all the universe that I'm living in, as a spectator. I'm invited to watch, as if you are a spectator in a soccer match. I am invited to be observing this reaping or harvesting of this field as an inspector. This is human's duty, to be an inspector, a tiller. And this is very beautiful, as Rasulullah in Hadith says, this world is the tillage of afterlife. So here we are going to keep sowing seeds. We are going to harvest it in the afterlife. Did I use it the other way around?
No, it's good.
Okay. So the author is actually interpreting this hadith in a sense, in this part, saying that yes, this existence is a field, and the creator is sowing everything, and every moment he keeps making multiple harvests. You are the person who is responsible to observe it and record it for your deeds to be shown to you in the akhirah. I might be an ignorant person. The world is being sown and harvested every moment. Like Ali is being sowed, multiple different manifestations is being put in there. I might be an ignorant person. I just enjoy the moment and let it go, do not take any lesson. But if I do my duty as a spectator, inspector, tiller, merchant consciously, every moment of Ali, or to the extent moments of Ali, can trigger the awe in me, appreciate its maker, and become part of my akhirah. If I say mashallah, consciously say mashallah to that beautiful creation over there, it becomes part of my akhirah now, because it becomes a meaningful moment to me rather than a just passing joyful moment. It becomes, oh, look how beautiful the creator is. Look how latif, like very carefully inscribing these, if you like, handwork of art over there. I can appreciate the maker. So this is why human is the spectator, inspector, tiller, merchant. Merchant is also very interesting. Like, إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة. So Allah is buying from the believers their property and their selves in exchange of Jannah. So the creator is describing this existence as if it's a transaction between me and my creator, saying the creator is saying that I entrusted you something, I gave you all those feelings and self to you, sell it back to me, the creator says. So we become a merchant in this case. We are making a transaction with the creator. So they're beautifully really explaining what is our duty here. And once I find myself as such in this existence, so I should then ask the question, or then I'm observing the existence as a state, as a mulk, so government state, that mulk, and I am a mamluk here. I am made as a worker, as a spectator, inspector, tiller, merchant, slave, what else? Herald. Herald is also important. Herald means proclaimer.
Like you take this drum and the heralds are announcing, let's say king delivers a message to the people, you take a drum and shout, right? So human is expected to be a herald of the creator's beauties, glories. So I should be reminding you, you should be reminding me to each other, oh, how merciful of a creator I have. And today we were discussing about azan. Azan is among sha'air al-Islamiyah. So you are a herald of Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. You proclaim it to humanity. It's not like, I understand, why are you shouting? Shut up. It's no. You need to be inviting people, proclaiming the greatness of your creator to the people. So this is why Allahu Akbar azan is among the signs of Islam. So it is also part of humans' job. And now the author, again, tying it back to our topic, creates creation as a mulk, keeps insha, reusing everything, reusing particles in this existence from one perspective in terms of identities. On the other hand, although this ongoing insha is taking place, makes you as a conscious observer with the duty of being an inspector. You are the mamluk. So mulk belongs to the one who appoints those mamluks. Those mamluks are also the mulk, the property of the owner of the state, the mulk. So tying the two ends again in here.
I hope that clarified some things. Any comments or question? Dua has a comment or a question. Where's the other mic? Okay.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really understand it at first because I was thinking like, oh, like the world is a property. So like if you see an apple tree and like we can just go up to the apple tree and like pluck an apple. So like does that mean like that I'm an owner of the property? Like is that what you're saying? But actually it's the opposite. And I think this sentence in the second last paragraph like really helped clarify it to me. He has created man and has given him such tools and abilities, senses, feelings, and especially such a soul, such desires, needs, appetites, greed, and claims, that in that extensive property, he is like a totally owned creature who is in need of all of it. So it's actually like the opposite. Like we need all of that property, so we are the ones who are actually owned. So, yep.
All right. I would make, coming back to the first paragraph, I would make a comment on the, what he says about the earth, the face of the earth resembling countless concentric circles or spheres, where every sphere is like an arable field, minute by minute, season by season. He sows, reaps, and harvests crops. And this made me think of that on the most, maybe the most micro of the macrocosm, the atom. You see a sort of concentric circle, right? The electrons rotating around the nucleus. Whatever. The proton? The proton. The electron revolving around the proton. And on the most macro of the arguably, from what I know, the most macro of the macrocosm, the solar system, you see the planets revolving around the sun. And of course, maybe new technology, imaging, satellite, I don't know, whatever else, telescopes and microscopes, all these scopes, they have better resolutions. We might witness more concentric circles, but that's not the point, right? It's not to go too far, too high, too big, or too small, but within our own, it implies that within our own circle of various degrees, ourself, our families, communities, or, within ourselves, different aspects of ourselves, there are these circles. And what is the, how do we understand them, right? We should be witnessing them as, the mulk, things that are prostrating around God. We should see his dominion and witness, these things as a property or or things that are being as owned and have governance maybe within a property. So we can move on to the second paragraph. He has made the world of minute particles, the largest sphere, into a field with his power and with his wisdom. He unceasingly sows crops in it to the extent of the universe and reaps and harvests them. He dispatches them from the manifest world to the world of the unseen, from the sphere of power to the sphere of knowledge. I find it interesting that the crops are dispatched from the manifest world and are sent to the world of the unseen. I'm not exactly sure what that means. And then the sphere of power to the sphere of knowledge. If anyone has any ideas of what that might mean.
Think like we have a few online participants. I just remind them that they can raise their hands or just turn on their microphones. We are watching if you are raising your hands or making comments on chat. So please don't hesitate. If you don't know how to raise your hand, just ask ChatGPT how I can raise my hand in Zoom and it will explain to you. So please.
Also, if you want to cheat, you can ask ChatGPT, these questions that we were asking, and come up with a really thoughtful answer, and nobody would know. It could be your own musings. We'd believe you. So. Yeah. So in the end of the second paragraph, there's Nursi says about the universe that Allah dispatches maybe the crops from the manifest world to the world of the unseen and from the sphere of power to the sphere of knowledge. What might that mean?
So the sphere of power to the sphere of knowledge, I think the sphere of power is like, this is now like the dunya, like where we live and interact. To the knowledge of the God, like nobody knows what's gonna be next. The akhirah.
Okay, so Mustafa said, this could refer to, the things in the material world can be brought back to the, the world of the unseen. So, the manifest world, the dunya, from the dunya to the akhirah, but what might be brought back? Right. We might understand it as we explained earlier about deeds, that whatever you cultivate, what you cultivate in this world will be what you harvest in the hereafter. So you can cultivate a field of good deeds and harvest a good crop, or you can cultivate a desolate, barren land and then cultivate and harvest nothing. Right. And that will be one interpretation. I guess it is explained a little later in the next paragraph. It might be worth reading. Next, he has made the face of the earth, which is a medium sphere, a place of cultivation in exactly the same way, where season by season he plants worlds, species, and reaps and harvests them. His immaterial crops too, he sends to the immaterial worlds, to the worlds of the unseen and the hereafter, in the world of similitudes. And this would also maybe give weight to the idea of deeds as immaterial crops. Further, any comments and questions? If not, we'll keep reading.
I have a question. This
he says he sows, reaps, and harvests crops, and then the concentric circles, it's like an arable field, and he says like the minute particulars are like a big field, and he reaps and harvests them. It's a very odd imagery, I guess, or attribute of, like, I never would have called my creator the farmer, I guess. Like, I never saw the name of the farmer. And I'm trying to see why Nursi is putting so much emphasis on an arable field. He sows crops and then he harvests them. I mean, my understanding of a farmer, if I was a farmer, is, you sow something and you kind of let something grow because you want to extract something from there. So I'm seeing, what is the creator extracting from here? And then, I guess he says, from the seen world to the unseen. So from the power to knowledge. So I guess he's kind of explaining it, but it's just, my question was kind of like, this is a very different name of my creator, which I hadn't really thought of. So I was thinking, what is really the emphasis here, and why wouldn't Nursi say, for example, the educator, he educates these people, or the one, the guider, there's many other names, but it's heavy emphasis on farmer almost, is a question I had.
So I don't know why he uses this, but like, to make the analogy, if he was to be teaching this to university students, he could have given the example of, for a professor, the whiteboard is his field. Because in that field, because farmers has one field, and they keep sowing, harvesting from the same surface. So for a professor, it is the whiteboard, writes, erases, and many meanings are being manifest and collected. So put over the board, demonstrated, take it off, put, demonstrate, take it off. So the creation is like this. So this is the first half of what he wants to explain. So the creation is that it's seemingly the same environment, same field, same farm. Then he puts takes, then he says, where is this going then? Like, there's an order, because for a professor, you will see that knowledge is being manifest orderly. But then it's being manifest orderly, then there are audience who is watching, and where is it coming from? Where is it going to becomes a question. That's why he said it's being put in here, coming from knowledge, being manifest in here and taken away and going to the unseen. So for me as the observer, the one who keeps writing to the board is the one who brought me to the classroom as well. So saying that as I am made to consciously learn, and whatever is being erased from the board is not really forgotten. They are being recorded. The same one who writes it in there makes it recorded in here, and nothing is going to non-existence because of that. He is the one, the protector, who put it from there, took it away from there as well, and nothing gets lost. And my memories is a witness to that fact. So once I am going to be ripped off, or no, reaped off from this field when I die, I'm not going to non-existence either. So because I am also a crop in this field, so I am a manifestation of his knowledge, his wisdom, and then he is going to take me off this stage, off this field too. But as the things that he put in me doesn't disappear, doesn't die, I am not going into non-existence or not becoming nothing either. So these are all this with the analogy of farmer gives this good notion, but maybe since farming is more of a general audiences, people can take more since everybody is aware of farming. But if it was today, probably he would have changed the example for this audience as a professor and a board and a classroom.
I think in general, the like this type of narration makes sense, because when we talk about a farming or sewing something, sowing something, and then seeing the end result, it makes sense. Like you put a seed and it becomes a flower, or you put a seed, it becomes a plant, even a vegetable. Right? And the relationship between the two, I guess, you wouldn't see such an example in other places. With whiteboard, for instance, you have to be really like a thinking in an abstract sense to say that, okay, it is written and then it becomes a knowledge and so on. But with farming, it's always like you put a seed and then it is harvested as something else. It has fruits in the literal sense, right? When you give an example of whiteboard, for instance, the fruit is so immaterial that you have to dive into and think about it. So it will be hard even, for two of us, right? For this audience. So anyway, yeah, I think farming makes sense. And the emphasis here, as I see, is that I look at the universe, I see action. Things are, happening from one aspect. I just see it as happens. But when I think about it, I realize that it's something being done. And there's a constant action. There's no static image in front of me. And these things are changing in a way as if, there's a purpose, like the relationship between seed and the tree is a perfect example to explain what's going on around me. With every change, I realize that, it is a seed being put on the ground so that there will be a fruit out of it. So there's a purposeful action all around me. So as if somebody is really sowing some seeds and then harvesting them. This is how I see universe, really. So, yeah, that's the way I see it. It's like somebody make it work. Somebody is, working on the ground in the field. That's how I see these actions, these changes. So I think we can talk about these different worlds, alam, manifest world, world of unseen. It will come to our attention in other parts as well. So maybe it's a good time if we have time.
We don't have much time, but I suppose that was a good point about witnessing how the example of the farmer is more about the reality that we witness. But again, I do believe there's credibility to other examples being used just based on the audience and the realities that we live in. I mean, it's obviously the physical reality is very obvious as we do witness it unfolding constantly and more obviously than other realities, but it's definitely applicable for any and every dominion, circumstance, explanations of events, etc. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll read the next paragraph, and we probably will not get very far with that, unless there are any comments or questions before. Alrighty. So a garden too, which is a smaller sphere, he fills hundreds and thousands of times with power and empties with wisdom. And from the even smaller sphere of an animate creature, a tree or a human being, for example, he harvests crops that are 100 times greater than the being itself. That is to say, the glorious Lord of all dominion creates all things, great and small, universal and particular as models, and clothes them in hundreds of ways in the weavings of his art, which are embroidered with continuously renewed inscriptions. He displays the manifestations of his names, the miracles of his power. He has created everything in his property as a page. He writes meaningful letters in hundreds of ways on each page. He displays his wisdom, his signs, and he invites intelligent creatures to read them. I guess from what we have been talking about, anyone have any maybe explanations of certain phrases or words that they understood, or comments or questions?
What if I'm unintelligent?
I mean, I'm not one to assert that claim, but if you feel like that.
Next time you can take your food, take from like a good to go.
All right, maybe we can end here. If
Let me
that's,
just say something,
please.
since we have 3 minutes.
Please.
So maybe this is the first time I ask this to myself as well. So when we read such text, it defines universe in a certain way. And to me, at least, that was very novel. Like the reading the universe this way, like you look at the things and see that they are being, changed in a purposeful way. And there are some fruits coming out of them and somebody is harvesting them. And from even smaller sphere of animate creatures, he harvests crops that are 100 times greater than the being itself. Like one thing in the universe bears fruits 100 times bigger than itself. It's so like reading the universe in a very, from my perspective, purposeful and meaningful way. Everything in life, everything in the universe has hundreds of purposes, hundreds of meanings. And it is being, this is it sown? Yes. Sown and then harvested in front of me. So this is very novel way of looking at the universe. Like especially when it comes to my troubles in life. It says, no, everything you have, everything you experienced in this life, it's put there with a certain purpose and actually hundreds of purposes, hundreds of meanings. So it bears fruits. But all these fruits look at their creator. So everything in my life, I should be trying to read it, what does it tell me? What it tells me about its creator. And then I will be, metaphorically speaking, harvesting all these fruits out of these things. Like one example, this little creature, little human, like doing all these things, making, let's say, her mom angry, right? I can read it in just this way. I say that, oh yeah, he's just being nasty and mom gets angry, right? And then that's what I get. But when I say that, no, all these feelings in this little guy, all these actions and the feelings of the mom, her actions, things happening in front of me, they are actually created in front of me and they are being harvested, right? Now I start reading this way, it will tell me a lot of things about my creator. So then I will become a memnuk. So the reason I'm saying this is just to emphasize that let's not, and first and foremost to myself, let's not just read such text and take it as a very, the elegant way of talking about the religious matters, right? Or romanticize it. No, try to see it a novel way to read the universe, to live your life. Inshallah.
All right, thank you for filling up the time. I think with that we'll end. But before we do end, I'll assign some voluntary homework, just like we assign voluntary readers. It might be more helpful for ourselves, every individual for themselves, to maybe read the sections beforehand and come up with some questions as well. It's very heavy for myself. I guess this is homework for myself first and foremost. It's very heavy to just read it on the spot and try to, formulate an idea of what is even going on. So that might be helpful to individuals who want to engage with the text a little bit more seriously. And with that, we'll end. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم من الحمد